Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the third in Amity's Practical Customer Success webinar series. We're really glad to have you here. My name is Paul Philp. I am the CEO and co-founder of Amity. We're the hosts for the webinar today, and we are particularly proud to have Kate Leggett from Forrester with us today. Kate is a VP and Principal Analyst at Forrester Research, and she covers the CRM and customer service space. As far as I'm aware, Kate was the innovator in the customer success space. I think she was the very first analyst to write anything about customer success a little over a year ago. And if you read her blog or follow her in any way, you know that Kate is passionate about how technology is enabling entirely new strategies for creating value for customers. So we're really looking forward to hearing her presentation. You can follow the webinar or tweet about the webinar on Twitter using the hashtag Practical Customer Success. And then we'll be sending everybody on today's webinar a link to the slides and the recording tomorrow, but one day after the webinar. And we'll have lots of time at the end today for your questions. So please write down your questions as Kate is doing her presentation, and we'll have lots of time for getting those questions answered at the end. We'll be doing a couple of polls during the webinar. And if you need anything after the webinar, just tweet us or email us, and we'll get right back to you. So with that housekeeping done, I'd like to introduce Kate Leggett from Forrester Research to talk about smart processes for customer success. Over to you, Kate.
Hey, thanks, Paul. And thanks to everybody on this webinar who have taken an hour out of your busy days to listen to Paul and I speak about customer success. And so to kick it off, to understand the importance of customer success, I think the best place to start is by having a discussion about the power of the modern customer. And you think back a decade ago, 2 decades ago, in the past, companies controlled all the information about a product. For example, its price, its location, its features and functions, and how the product was used to deliver business value. And what happened about a decade ago was that social media came on the stage and ushered in what Forrester is calling the age of the customer. And what this means is that today there's a transparency about the information relevant to products and services, from specifications to case studies to how the product is rated or reviewed by customers. And what this means is that now customers are sitting in the driver's seat and they're controlling the conversation that they're having with the companies that they're doing business with. And because of this, companies have to be a lot more obsessed with delivering engagement or experiences in line with customer expectations to garner their satisfaction and their long-term loyalty to using a product or a service. And this isn't only true in the B2C world, but it's increasingly true in the B2B world. So the first trend that we see is that customers are in control of the conversation with the companies that they do business with. And if a company isn't meeting their expectations, customers will be more likely to take their business elsewhere. The other trend that we're seeing is an obvious one, is that our world is moving to a subscription economy. And no longer are purchases made as large capital expenditures. Instead, we're subscribing to services, which are more attractive because monthly costs are much easier to rationalize. And you just look around you in your personal life, and you can see what industries have moved to this model, like media and entertainment that offer products via subscription, like Netflix and Hulu and iTunes and Spotify. Or you think about Amazon that's made shipping a service, or Zipcar for ride sharing, transportation as a service. Birchbox is one of the many companies that has health and beauty and fashion items via subscription. Blue Apron. grocery subscriptions. And in the business world, you see Yammer for collaboration, Box for content management, Google Apps for office productivity tools, like mail, calendaring, and doc sharing. And if you look in the B2B world, the subscription model has also tipped for many of the traditional B2B software categories. And what you're looking at on the screen is a maturity model for cloud B2B software categories. And what I have circled in orange are software categories like learning and talent management, sales automation, HR, human capital management software. And these software categories are being purchased as software as a service or via subscription. It's no longer being purchased as on-premise software that's paid for as a large capital expenditure. And then on the leading edge of this graphic, you see many software categories like customer service, marketing automation, IT service management, enterprise content management that look like they're well on their way to being primarily purchased as software as a service. And at Forrester, we have a lot of data, and we've been tracking this move of B2B software categories to being purchased as a service for many years. And the data that I'm showing you here is data over 3 years. And what you're seeing is that many software categories, from business intelligence, which is at the top of this slide, to commerce software, to HRM, partner PLM, on and on, are increasingly being purchased in the cloud. And they're being purchased as a subscription either to complement or to replace existing implementations of the software. And what you see is that in every category on this chart, there's a rapid acceleration to moving to these software categories being purchased via subscription. And this subscription model is putting a lot more emphasis on relationships. And you think back to when products were purchased as a capital expenditure, and the emphasis and the energy went into making that initial sale. And once that sale was made, the product was purchased, you tended to have lost track of the customer. And you didn't even know if they had implemented the product and how they were using the product. And in a subscription economy, you have a long-term relationship with your customers. And the focus is not only on acquiring customers, but also on maintaining these relationships and making them successful. And we know that good relationships have a quantifiable top-line revenue impact. Satisfied customer correlates to a loyal customer. And a loyal customer is one who will ultimately spend a larger wallet share during their engagement lifetime with a company. And we measure customer loyalty over 3 dimensions at Forrester. And we have data that correlates customer loyalty to customers being less likely to churn away from your brand. Customer loyalty also correlates to what we call enrichment loyalty. The customer is more likely to buy additional purchases, additional products and services from the company. And customer loyalty also correlates to increased advocacy, which ends up driving new sales. And net, you care about nurturing your customers' relationships in a subscription economy because it has quantifiable revenue impact. So, because of the importance of maintaining, of supporting customers in this subscription economy that we're living in, and focusing on making them successful by having them realize the economic value of their purchase, there's this new organizational role that's emerged, and it's called Customer Success Management, and their job is to actively manage customer journeys to reduce churn, to increase existing revenue, and influence new sales. So what I'd like to quickly look at is how customer success operates over these three dimensions of reducing churn, increasing existing revenue, and influencing new sales. So customer success reduces churn. And to understand this, you really need to look at the importance of churn in terms of a company's growth trajectory. And you think about a company, when they're starting out, these new companies don't have a lot of customers, and you're really focused on customer acquisition. But as you grow, you look at retaining your customers to minimize churn. Once your product is fairly well established, your company starts introducing other product bundles. And at that point, you really need to focus your energy on expanding the footprint of your current product within your existing customer base. And you're looking at cross-selling and upselling opportunity in your customer base. And then when you reach the large company size in the optimization or transformation stage, you want to make sure that your resources are spent engaging with the most profitable customers. And you want to look at defining standard engagement practices and embedding automation in as many of your customer engagement tasks as possible. Again, to nurture their relationships and to grow the products you use within your customer base. So, as you grow, so here's a quick poll question for you. What stage of the success maturity model do you believe that your company is in? And I'll give you just a minute to answer the questions. Are you in early product adoption, retention, expansion, optimization, or transformation? Okay. I'll give you just another 20 seconds or so. Okay, so interesting. What we see is from the attendees that a third of you are in adoption. You're a small company looking to grow your customer base. A third of you are about in the retention phase, and a third of you are in the more mature expansion phase. And we have almost nobody in the transformation and optimization space. And at every stage of a company's growth, the customer success is important. And I'll explain why. So, your company's growth comes from new customers as well as existing customers. And as you grow, revenue from your existing customers become a larger and larger part of your company's economic value. And to explain this, let me run you through a very quick example. So take two software as a service companies, and each company adds customers at a steady rate of, say, 10 a month. And each of the customers, to make it simple, are paying $1,000 a month. And the cost of acquiring companies is the same for both companies. The cost of acquiring customers is the same for both companies. And the company, following this top green trajectory, is going to maintain a 95% retention rate for its customers. And the company following this blue growth trajectory maintains an 80% retention rate. So the only difference between the two companies is their customer retention rate. And so for this calculation, I'm going to consider the cost of acquiring a new customer is the same again for both companies. Say it's $1,200. So 5 years later, the green company has acquired 600 customers, but it's only lost 30 because it has a 95% retention rate. And now look at the blue company. They've acquired the same number of customers, but they've lost 120. And so if you compare the actual run rate for both companies, the green company, after 5 years, has a run rate of over $6 million. But the blue company has a run rate of $4.5 million, which comes out to a difference of over $2 million, or close to $2 million in revenue, which is also a quantifiable difference in company valuation. And so this means that in our subscription-based economy, it's becoming increasingly important to focus on reducing your customer churn. And managing this churn has a real quantifiable revenue impact. And the effect of retaining your customers is often underappreciated, because if you look at this graph, you see that the impact is cumulative. It can be pretty modest or small at first, but it's much larger if you look out 3 years or 5 years into the future. Okay, so customer success also helps increase new revenue. And this is because you've got data and you have insights about your customer base, and you can use this data and insights to have data-driven conversations to make cross-selling and upselling easier. And so how you do this is the goal of your customer success organization is to make your customer realize the economic value of the product investment. And because they have all the data at their fingertips about how a customer is using a product. They know how many users are provisioned, number of active users, features and functions that are being used. They also understand a customer's business goals and how their purchase of their solution is helping your customer meet their business goal. So using all this data, customer success can help quantify for the customer the value that they are realizing out of the product. And they can also compare who's using the product or what features are being used with what was contractually purchased. And then they can use this information to have these data and insights-driven conversations at the time of renewal. So customer success also helps increase advocacy. So what do we know about a brand advocate? An advocate is a highly satisfied customer that will rate your company and your products favorably. They'll give you favorable testimonials and write positive reviews about you. And in the world of social media that we live in, these positive reviews and ratings get amplified and can help drive new sales. But the question is how do you calculate the economic value of advocacy? And what we know is that brand advocates they're like a virtual sales force for your company. They spread the word about your products, your services, and in that way they're influencing future sales. And you think about, for example, your experience with Amazon. And then when you go shopping and you're trying to decide between 30 undifferentiated products, the first thing that I do, like probably most of you, is to look at the ratings and reviews and use that peer-driven content to be able to influence your purchase. So back to the economic value of brand advocates. First, we know from a recent study by Deloitte that brand advocates spend twice as much on their favorite products and brands as the average customer. So first of all, brand advocates buy more. Secondly, we also know that the advocacy value for advocates can be quantified. Their advocacy, it drives new sales. And so what we argue is that brand advocates deserve an additional premium over new customers. And this premium we estimate at about 3 times the value. So you can say that advocates, they spend more with you and they drive new sales. And this driving of new sales, you can quantify the percentage of new sales that are influenced by advocacy. And it's different depending on your industry. But on average, we can estimate that a brand advocate has about 5 times the value than an average customer. Okay, so customer success. To do customer success well, takes a coordinated effort across 4 dimensions. You have to have the right customer success strategy. You have to have the right data, to have those data and insights-driven conversations with your customers. You have to have smart processes so you know how to engage with your customers that reside in your different tiers, like you have defined in your customer success strategy. And lastly, you have to hire the right profile of customer success managers that can work at all levels of an organization. Processes and people together. And for the rest of the presentation, I wanted to explain what each of these four dimensions is. So let's start off with strategy. So your customer success managers have to actively manage a customer's journey with a product. And this is important because you have to realize that your customers can churn just about at any time during their journey with your product. For example, if you are converting customers to paid customers from free trial, or you're provisioning and onboarding a customer, and these activities don't happen successfully, your customers may not start using the product and will end up churning at renewal time because they just didn't get any value out of the product. So if your customers, for example, just moving up the usage curve, if your customers are not taught how to use the product in the right way, and they're not getting any value out of their initial use, the customers at that point may end up questioning their investment in the product, and then again will churn at renewal time. So then if you think about customers that have learned how to use the product, but they're not getting the full value out of the product because they haven't learned about best practices or tips and tricks about using the product, or understand the most valuable features of the product, again, they're not getting the full value of the product and they're at a risk of churning. And so what you need to do is you need to manage each step of this customer's journey, from initial provisioning, onboarding, to using helping customers realize the economic value that the product is delivering. You also have to show customers how to get the maximum value out of the product by showing them how it can best be used in the greatest number of scenarios that help support their end customers. And you have to help them understand how the full functional footprint can be used. So again, customer success, it's not just managing your onboarding processes, but you have to manage your customer's journey from inception to provisioning, onboarding, to driving adoption through the organization. So irrespective of where you are, again, in your company's growth trajectory, you also want to tier your customers, because the way that you engage with different tiers of customers, you'll have different processes that you use to engage with different tiers of customers. And you typically want to tier your customers into several different tiers. But we tend to see companies tiering their customers into, for example, the strategic accounts. And these are accounts that either from a deal size perspective or a marketing or PR perspective are the most important accounts for your company. And at the bottom of the pyramid, you have what I call these value accounts. They're not strategically important based on their revenue, based on their company profile. And then again, the actions or the processes that you take with each tier will vary. So for the strategic accounts, you're deeply embedded, and you're tending to rely on a lot of personal, high-touch interaction. And in the value accounts, even though they may not be strategically important, you still want to preserve them, and you're engaging with them, but you tend to rely more on automation and one-to-many communications, like you think about email blasts, or that communicate best practices, or webinars and newsletters to keep these accounts, or to keep in contact with these accounts. So in your customer success strategy, you have to realize that you want to support your customers throughout the entire journey with your product, and that the way that you support your customers will be dependent on the customer tier that they're in. So here's a quick poll question for you. How many customer tiers do you have today? Do you tier your customers? And I'll give you just a minute to have you answer. Okay, I'll give you another couple seconds. Okay, I'm not seeing the results change too much anymore. Okay, interesting. 20% of you have 4 more tiers. 30% of you have 3 tiers. 15% of you have no tiers. And 10% of you have 1 tier. So what is that? 25% of you treat all customers equally. So think about that. Even if you're a young company, you do not want to invest in your customers the same. You want to look at your customers from a strategic perspective and decide how you want to engage with your different tiers of customers. So I guess a call to action from this data is for those of you who do not tier your customers, ask yourself why you don't tier your customers. It may make sense to your business, but you may have additional value by tiering your customers and thinking about different customer success processes for the different customer tiers that you're able to establish. Okay, so moving on to the 4 dimensions of customer success. Let's look at data, which is the second pillar of optimizing customer success operations. So, to be able to actively manage a customer's journey with your product, you've got to monitor what we call a customer's health score. And a health score is an indicator of a customer's likelihood of churning. And its behavior, meaning how it's trending either upwards or downwards over time, you can monitor this health score. And you can monitor it at a company level, at a subscription level, even at an individual user level. And monitoring this health score and then how it's trending either up or down is really at the heart of understanding and managing your customer success. So how do you build a health score? So the data that you need to build a health score is comprised of 4 or 5 large attributes. First one is customer attributes. You need to understand, for example, the number of users that are provisioned, the number of active users, the number of inactive users, the features that these customers are using, the number of call tickets, the number of customer service tickets or customer service calls that your customer has made. You need to understand where your customer is in their journey, in their product adoption journey. You also need to understand how your customers define success in being able to use your product. So you use all these attributes as one of the core ingredients or components of a health score. You also need finance data, contract data. You need to understand, for example, the terms and conditions of the contract, audit records to make sure, for example, that the number of users that your customer has bought does not exceed the number of users who are actually using the product. You need audit records for that. You need your renewal terms and conditions. And you can use this information to be able to understand whether your customer is realizing the economic value of your product. You also need to get feedback from your customer. And you can get this directly by launching, for example, surveys to get customer feedback. You can get it as well from customer service, directly or indirect feedback. You can get direct customer feedback once a ticket is closed, or indirectly by getting feedback from your customer service agents. You also need to know whether there's any alerts or negative feedback that's coming in from your customer base. And then you also need to monitor what ones of your customers are acting as advocates. So here's a good question for you. Most of this data that I just talked about lives in different systems within your company. It could be your CRM system, your financial systems, an ERP system, a help desk or call center, contact center system. So one question that we have is, do you have access to unified customer data? Or is it pretty much siloed within your company and it's difficult to access? So I'll give you a minute to answer this poll. Okay, give you another couple of seconds. Okay, so I'm really surprised. Close to 60% of you say that you have access to unified customer data across your financial systems and your CRM and your support systems, for example. 44% say no. And actually, I'd love to understand from you, perhaps after this webinar, how you have access to unified customer data. Is it manual access, where you're putting all this customer data together, or you're actually using a tool set to be able to pull all this data to have this unified customer view? So you surprised me with this answer. I was thinking that most of you would not have access to unified customer data. Okay, so once you have this unified customer data, and once you have defined your customer success strategy, we can think about customer success processes. So starting with a health score. So to create a health score, again, you need to gather all this data from your CRM, from your ticketing systems, from financial systems, on and on, from your NPS survey. And you need to be able to clean this data, aggregate it, clean it, and then visualize it in an easy to understand way. And then once you have cleansed data, you need to derive insight from this data, figure out what this data is telling you. You need to segment the data by customer tier, for example, or by industry. And you also need to use this data to help understand and uncover the most important attributes for retention, or your customer churn, or expansion, based on whether it's a customer, whether it's the industry. Because different industries, for example, will have different driving forces or attributes that are important when you create this health score. And then once you have these insights, and you're trending them over time, so you understand the change in these attributes, you also need to understand, or try to understand, what these insights are telling you. And once you understand whether the insights are telling you that you have a satisfied customer, or a customer that's, for example, trending to being a risky customer, you need to create success workflows or processes to nurture your customers. And these success workflows or processes are dependent on where the customer is in their journey, their product adoption and product usage journey. And when you think about these workflows can be onboarding workflows, or workflows which drive higher customer adoption, or they could be retention workflows. Okay, and then these success workflows are dependent on where you are in the customer journey, and where you are as well, dependent on the type of customer tier. And you have to realize that these success workflows don't always have to result in a phone call to an end user. They don't always have to be high-touch activities. And customer interactions tend to be, for all tiers, are a combination of high-touch activities, for example, like a meeting or a quarterly business review, or even low-touch activities such as a personal email to all the product users, or automated activities like invitation to best practice webinars or training videos. And for your strategic accounts, you're focused on more of the high-touch activities. For your value accounts, you tend to the more automated touch activities. But it also means that for the high-touch activities, even though you're investing in these high-touch activities with your strategic accounts, you have a minimal level of automation, but you have some automation, some automated workflows or automated communications that are going out to these strategic accounts. So these processes or workflows are ways that your customer success team is engaging with users and stakeholders to drive better engagement, to drive higher loyalty, to help reduce churn. And again, you've got to define and standardize processes at all stages of the customer journey. From, for example, converting a trial user to a paid user, or onboarding a company, or to driving adoption of a product within a company so that they're able to realize the economic value of their purchase to further their business goals. And these processes as well help you engage with the right stakeholders and recognize opportunities for expansion. And these are standardized, they're data-driven, they're smart processes, and they are deliver predictable outcomes. So let me explain how this happens. So smart processes, or these workflows, success workflows, are the ways that your customer success teams engage with two groups, users and stakeholders. And again, they're doing this to drive better engagement and loyalty and to reduce churn. And so let's focus on the processes for the product users. And these are processes which drive more successful onboarding and product adoption, again, at the user level. And you can collect data to understand who's using the product, like what users are provisioned, who's not using the product. And then you can define intervention processes to help onboard customers, such as if you see customer users who have not activated their accounts, you can send them login reminders, you can send them instructional videos and tutorials, you can send them invitations to collaborate with peers who are successfully using your product. And this data also can be used to understand what product features are being used, whether the stickiest product features are being used, whether they're being used in the right way. And these insights can trigger processes, again, which help guide users to best practices in using these applications. And for stakeholders, the goal of a customer success organization is to make the stakeholder realize, again, the economic value of their product investment. And the way they do this is, again, they have at their fingertips all the information about how the customer is using the product. They know the number of users that are provisioned, the number of active users, features and functions being used. And they understand as well the customer's business goal and how this product is helping the end customer meet their goal. So using this data, customer success teams can quantify for the stakeholder the value of their product and whether the return on their investment and whether they're getting the return on their investment and what adjustments to contracts have to be made. And this data can also be used to pinpoint accounts that show signs of poor health that are more apt to churn. And then you can kick off these intervention workflows to help nurture, in a very standardized way, these accounts back to health. And so how do you standardize data-driven processes to help deliver these predictable outcomes? These smart processes can be used to make your team a lot more efficient. Because, again, the combination of these automated actions and the processes requiring human touch are easily able to scale as your customer base grows, and so that you don't have to add additional customer success management headcount. And then these standardized processes also help drive product adoption and best practice use, and which ends up making the users of your product a lot more engaged. And then again, these data-driven conversations that you can have with the stakeholders make the business leaders also more engaged with your company as they're able to quantify the return on their investment. And these smart processes also make your team more effective at being able to have the right conversation with the right users in the company, again, to help drive product adoption and expansion. And these smart processes also make the users of your product more effective at delivering value to their customers. Net, what it's doing is it's strengthening the bond with you as a supplier, and in turn strengthening the bond that your customers have with their customers. And that's how these standardized processes can help deliver more efficient engagement, more effective engagement, and a deeper level of engagement. So we know that customer success takes coordinated effort across 4 dimensions: strategy, data, processes. But the 4th pillar is having the right people as customer success managers. And we know that customer success management is a new role. And in all the data that I've collected over the last 2 or 3 years, I see that customer success organizations typically reside in 3 places within a company. They reside in sales, or in customer service, or in operations. And there are pros and cons for each of these organizational models. But wherever customer success the organization resides, they have to work very closely with sales for renewals and for new revenue opportunities. And what I believe is, as the role matures, we expect to see more of a standard organizational reporting hierarchy emerge. And I'm sure that's going to happen over the next couple of years as this role becomes widely adopted in companies. So who makes a good customer success manager? A good customer success manager is an account manager who has domain expertise, who can work at all levels of an organization to make the customer successful. They're equally comfortable working with end users as they are working with business stakeholders. They have a passion for serving customers. They're good at building relationships. They're well organized. Again, they're able to relate to not only end users, but the higher level business stakeholders. They've got this proactive can-do attitude. Many times they are your single point of contact for the business relationship, as well as for issues that you may have with the product. They're technical enough. But they're not deeply technical. But what they bring to the table is best practice knowledge and industry knowledge, how to make the tools successful, how to make their purchase successful for a particular industry, or to help educate users on how to achieve their business goals. And so they bring to the table a lot of domain expertise. And again, they are good at working at all levels within an organization, from the end users to the company leaders. So customer success, it's not about using a packaged tool, although packaged tools can help. So we were wondering is how many of you are using a customer success tool, a packaged software tool today? And I'll just give you a couple minutes to respond. Okay, give you another 2 seconds. Okay, there you go. So almost 70% of you say, no, you're not, and that's what I would expect. Customer success technology is fairly new. A third of you are using a tool. And tools definitely help. They offer ways to aggregate data. They offer ways to cleanse data, to be able to derive, to do data analysis, to derive insights, to visualize data. They have triggers and alerts to kick off smart processes that you are able to define and configure for the different tiers of your customers. But being successful at managing your customer relationships, it's not only about technology. It's not only about buying an off-the-shelf tool or hiring account managers to work across all your customers. It's really a combination of having the right engagement strategy, the right customer success strategy, which is dependent on the maturity of your business, where you are in your growth cycle, and your customer tiers. It's about having, again, the right data that you're able to aggregate, to cleanse, and to derive insights from. It's also about having the right processes that are dependent on where the customer is in their journey with using your product. It's dependent on the tier of your customer. And it's also dependent on hiring the right customer success managers and crystallizing their role and responsibilities, whether they reside in sales or in customer service or in operations. So customer success, it's becoming a hot topic because, again, of two main trends that we see at Forrester. We've moved to a subscription economy for all around, and this is increasingly true in B2B software. And as we move to a subscription economy, both in the consumer world and the business world, it becomes a lot more important at managing customer relations, because preserving your customers and reducing churn becomes critical to a company's success. And so focusing, again, on these four dimensions of customer success is becoming increasingly important in the world that we live in, because of this move to a subscription economy, and because customers, whether they're B2B customers or B2C customers, have a lot more power than they did before. And they're likely, if they're not getting the engagement and the value out of their purchase, they are more likely to churn. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Paul.
Great.
You want to take it away?
Kate, thank you very much. That was a great presentation. Lots of great information and insights in there for everyone to think about. I want to take 2 minutes to introduce Amity for the people on the webinar today, and then we'll get to to everyone's questions. Amity is a customer success software platform that we call it Power Customer Success. We partner with our customers to implement the types of smart processes that Kate was talking about during her talk. And we give you the unified customer data. We pull together all the data from your CRM, all the data from your support tickets, all the data from billing systems, all the data from your marketing automation systems, and we combine it, most importantly, with outcome and usage data from your product, and give you that 360-degree view of your customers. Then we turn that data into insights about the health and condition and the current situation with all of your customers in real time. And then we feed all of that into our smart playbook technologies. That's what builds the smart processes for having those data-driven conversations at the right time with the right user and the right message and the right level of touch. That's what we provide to our customers. If you'd like to learn more, or if you'd like to see it in action, just go to our website and drop us a line. We'd love to give you a demo. And now I'm going to answer everyone's questions. We got a great big queue of questions, so let's start digging through them. So first, it's hi, Kate. Obviously, this might be a weighty question given our host, but without naming names, what kind of features make for a good software solution to the monitoring of customer success data and deploying of customer success practices?
Oh, good question. I think you need adapters, packaged adapters, to be able to connect up to the different sources of data that you want to use when you're building up a health score. You need to, once you have all that data, you need to be able to cleanse it. So manage its quality, cleanse it, aggregate it. You want to be able to have data visualization to be able to understand, to be able to see your data. It's great if you if these tools have a level of data science. You want to be able to create a health score with the different attributes. You also want to be able to customize or configure your health score by weighting different attributes differently, again, dependent on an industry. You want to have configurable reports, so you're able to easily understand health scores by segment or by company and be able to trend it over time. Analytics, you need to have triggers and alerts. So, for example, if a health score drops, you need to be, it needs to kick off it needs to trigger an action, and that action triggers a workflow, which you define based on customer tier and where they are in their adoption journey. These workflows can, or playbooks, have to be able to be configured, so you need business-friendly tools to configure those. Top of my head, that's what I would tend to look for. Different tools in the market look quite different. So what I would do is have a look at the different tools in the market, find one that whose user experience and usability works for you. And as well, many of these companies also do proof of concepts and demos, and so I would encourage you to do that too. I know, Paul, from a vendor perspective, did I miss any main features, or do you want to add anything?
No, Kate, that was awesome, and I think you covered all the foundations of a great customer success platform, and of course that's what Amity provides our customers. And if anyone would like more information, just let me know. The next question is: it looks like a good CSM is basically just a high-performing employee with broad expertise. Any insights into where you can pluck these people from, i.e., as a previous role in ops good, sales good, marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. So the folks that I think do well in customer success is, for example, a tech support agent who has really great relationships, or who's able to have good relationships with customers, and who is comfortable enough to work across all levels of the organization. They have the product expertise. What they need to get trained on is more the domain expertise, take that higher level view than, for example, a typical tech support agent would have. Another place is an account manager who has domain expertise. And what they may be lacking is the hands-on, the product knowledge. And again, you don't need to have detailed product knowledge, but you need to have some level of product knowledge. So that's another role that would make a great customer success manager. I see these folks being taken less from marketing or from ops. Again, it's more from either pre-sales, like a technical sales person or a technical account manager, or a like a customer experience manager who lives in sales, or again a tech support agent. But in each case, you need to train them to fill in the gaps of what they don't have.
Great, thanks, Kate. Next question is: at what point, from an MRR perspective, do you think customer success becomes necessary in a B2B model? Currently an early stage startup looking to employ customer success from the beginning, but it seems challenging to me so far due to lack of customers.
You just need to make sure, I think you need customer success right from the get-go. Even if you have one customer, you need to make sure that that customer doesn't churn and that customer is successful at using your product. And that means even though you're focused with on acquiring customers, you can't walk away from nurturing the customers that you have. So again, you don't need to have a separate team if you're a very small company, but you want to make sure that the initial customers that you have are happy and that they're getting the value out of your product and that they will stick with you.
Great. Next question.
You may not do it. You may not necessarily. I was going to go ahead, Paul.
Do customer success tools make sense for companies that offer a service versus a product?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Because that service is being bought via subscription, and that service, you need to make sure that your customers are engaged with your service and that they are more likely to renew. So customer success applies to products and to services equally. Anytime that you have a customer base where that has a termed contract that's up for renewal at some point, you need to make sure that your customers are happy and they will stick with you in the long term. You may not use the same types of playbooks or workflows, but you need to be focused on preserving your customers, nurturing them so that they stay with your company and possibly can even grow their subscription.
Thanks, Kate.
I think we have time for one more.
It's coming up to 1 o'clock, so I think it's time to wrap up. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out today and attending the webinar. Kate, the content was amazing. Thank you very much for putting that together for us. And thanks everyone for coming up. You can follow Kate on Twitter at Kate Leggett or Forrester at Forrester. And then I'd like to. Oh, and just to let everyone know, we have 2 more webinars scheduled on October 28th. Jessica Wise of Soapbox is going to be telling us how she built a process for delivering predictable customer outcomes. And Ed Powers and Josh Robitaille are going to be talking on November 10th about exactly what Kate talked about today, strategies for account segmentation and how you get the criteria for segmentation right, how you get the service delivery model right, and how you get the value proposition right for all your customer segments. Thank you very much for coming out today, and we appreciate your time, and thank you.